Hi, I'm Dr. Amy Robbins, and welcome to Life, Death, and the Space Between. Jean Trebek and Alison Martin are very dear friends, and this episode proves that. I felt like I was their girlfriend in an amazing conversation about life and death, how to deal with grief and loss, what friendship looks like over time, how to support one another through challenging times, and how A Course in Miracles, and if you haven't heard of A Course in Miracles before, you're going to get a little schooling in this episode, how A Course in Miracles guides their lives. So if you don't know Jean Trebek, Jean is the co-host of Inside Wink, and she was the wife of the famous Alex Trebek from Jeopardy, who we all knew and loved. And Alison Martin is her co-host on Inside Wink and has been an actor for over 25 years. So I think you are going to love this episode. And with that, here's today's episode of Life, Death, and the Space Between. Welcome, Jean and Alison, to Life, Death, and the Space Between.
Hello. Hi, Amy.
I'm so excited you're here. First of all, because you had reached out to me, and I actually had you on my list to reach out to. I don't know who recommended you, but it was on my list. And so I'm so excited to have this conversation today. And I love when that synchronicity happens. Because I'm like,
Yes.
Okay, I put it out there and we'll see. So I want to hear from both of you, your journeys, especially kind of given that you're in LA and you've both been in the public space in some capacity, the public eye. What has been your journey into spirituality?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Do you want to go?
I'm going to think a little moment here.
Oh, so I have to go?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Yeah, Jean gets to think, but I'll go.
Right. Not to put you on the spot, but have at it.
I mean, I just need to think. That's a great question.
Yeah, it's a really
Amy.
good question.
Great question.
I mean, I think for me, I've always been very engaged before I even knew that this was called spirituality, Seth Speaks and all those things all those type of things when I was very young, I found very engaging. And then I was raised in a Roman Catholic, my father was agnostic and my mother wasn't really practicing, but I would go with the Fury Girls, which were my neighbors, to church. And I was really into it at that point. And then, when I came out here and I met Jean, we met through a thing called A Course in Miracles.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that too.
Yeah, and that was now over 20 years ago now. And it was that really solidified where I thought I should be focusing. And then we joined the Science of Mind Church, or I joined. Jean urged me to join. And now I feel like all we do is sort of keep reading, partially because of Inside Wink, our podcast. Mm-hmm. So we've read a lot and met so many people that I feel so bathed in it that now I feel it's really incorporated into my heart. So I think that's sort of my journey. You've had a more intensive, right? Or more.
Well, I'll say that I think when you have something happen to you as a younger person, that's out of the norm. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was the death of my brother. He was 19, I was 18. Alison lost her father was
very young,
passed away when she was 22. So for me, going back, I think sometimes your soul, your psyche is dealing with something traumatic and you're looking outside the norm for an answer. Mm-hmm. And I too was raised Catholic. I always had an affinity for Jesus, but didn't really like how he was presented and his teachings were presented as through the Catholic Church, although I think the Catholic Church had a lot of wonderful things. I'm not dissing it, but I just felt, I don't know about all the guilt and that we're born of sin. I actually felt the opposite. And so my brother passes away, and it really shook up my life a lot. And I think I just reached out so many. I was definitely in that seeking mode. And then probably like in my late 30s, I found A Course in Miracles, and it really rang true to me, along with another book called Conversations with God. That was another great book that it wasn't really religious. It's definitely spiritual. So I just felt that was a healing balm for my mind and my heart. And I just kept at it.
For those who don't know, it's crazy that as long as I've had this podcast, I've never had someone on to talk about A Course in Miracles, because I feel like in many ways that's, for many people, was sort of the pinnacle of like a spiritual opening or a connection to something bigger than themselves. Can you tell people what that is and how I know there's been some kind of negativity that's sometimes associated with it, because I think there have been people who've almost turned the teachings into like a cult-like following. But can you speak a little bit to like what that is? Because it's a psychologist who started it.
Me. So it's a channeled book, channeled by Jesus through a psychiatrist that she worked at Columbia University. I believe it was like around 1970, maybe late 60s, early 70s. And it's basically a teaching of your mind. It's how the mind has been so conditioned to be fearful, to be thinking lack, to be thinking separate from each other. And through a series of everyday lessons, Jesus is, and when I say Jesus, it's not the, like a man that had moccasins and walked. I mean, I do feel the consciousness, but it's more of a realm. It's an arc of consciousness that's pure love. So that's what Jesus represents: pure love, non-judgment, forgiveness. So that is what the essence of his soul came here to teach, and he continues that through the Course in Miracles. So it's a lesson every day. He gives a lesson, and it's just mind training. We've been so conditioned to think, like I said, about fear and lack, and he's saying, no, there's another way to think. And I'll say that one of his teachings is that the outer world is an effect of our thinking, both collectively and individually. So we're seeing a lot of polarization right now, and that is the mind. It's actually being exposed so we can choose again, so we can choose love.
So it's the projections, our projections,
right,
are the reality in which we then see and experience.
Right. So he is trying to show us how to see the world differently. And it can be very challenging, you know, when you see homeless people, when and an easy thing, like if you're late for an appointment, all that fear comes up. I'm not enough. This is awful. So for instance, like if we've had forgiveness lessons, if you paid someone some money, like you lent them money and they didn't pay you back, like it's about forgiveness. And that's what this world really needs, is that balm of letting go, being non-judgment. And being non-judgment isn't not recognizing that what's going on isn't helpful, but it's not blaming and realizing, okay, there's something, I need to see more love in this world.
That was good. That was a good explanation. That was a really good.
How are you guys friends? You have a very lovely dynamic.
I don't know. We literally met in a Course in Miracles, and then we just make each other laugh so hard, and we're on the same. We're in the same place so often.
True.
That it just is very, very easy. Like we just now we've been hanging out. We see each other. We talk every day. Mm-hmm. Like we don't have to fill each other in. Like that's sort of the good thing. Like if something's happening, Jean will know. And so
vice versa.
That's great. Like not to have to be like, what have you been up to the past 2 months? Like, so having someone that's walking right with you. And there have been times that I've been like afraid or worried, and Jean will remind me that I have a choice in that. I have a choice in feeling that, and really, what is the truth?
And Alison does that for me, because I certainly have my days, my times, my moments. It depends how long I want to stay, but she'll course correct me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's good, because of Course of Miracles, that's good.
Yeah. And I know, can you say more about like how this information came to, was her name Barbara? Is her name Barbara? Helen?
Schuckman. And what's interesting is there was some conflict in the psychology department.
No, I know. I remember.
And they could not figure out how to move forward. And she started to, this automatic writing started happening. And she didn't want to tell anyone because she was concerned that it didn't make sense for where she was positioned in terms of society. Like what's happening?
Yeah. But just sorry, I just want to add one little thing. But before she was downloaded, this voice was coming through her. So as to what Alison said, she was having this conflict with a person in her office, and she apparently said something like to the effect of, there must be another way.
Yeah.
There must be another way to deal with this. That's not so angst and God, I wish you just so she that was the impetus. And I think her psyche was, I don't know how it works in the unseen side of life, but the consciousness of Jesus was able to find its way in. And because she was such a smart woman, I think that energy of love known as Jesus had to move through her filter as a human. So she knew words. Her dialogue was very intellectual. Mm-hmm. They wanted this document not to be something airy-fairy. It was really for someone that is a very thought-provoking person, someone that is just not going to be spoon-fed another, here, believe this. And Jesus is really telling you to drop all your beliefs of separation and fear and come back to your holiness. Mm-hmm. Holiness in both whole as in WHOLE and then also your divinity.
What does this look like for you in everyday life? How do you live this? Because I think these are certainly ideals, but then how do they get translated into a life well lived?
That's a great question. And I think it's just really getting out of the mind so much that is always analyzing and critiquing yourself and what's going on, and just take a moment and recognize that, okay, it may not be the way I like it to be, the way I want it to be, but I'm passing through, and my thoughts do have power. My thoughts have a creative effect.
And I think too that I know for me, stuff happens, stuff happens, and we say good stuff, bad stuff, like we begin to label that stuff, and just stuff happens. And I think for me, A Course in Miracles reminds me, stay in the now, be present right now. I was just telling Jean about something that a friend of mine is going through, and then I went, but I'm not there yet. We're not there yet. Like, there's no need to sort of, be so into it about like thinking, what's that going to be? Oh, that's a thing. We're not there. I'm right here, right now. I can be in control of my emotions and my thoughts right now. And I can have faith and belief that love and my compassion and that person's love and compassion will enlighten us to the way to proceed. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't have to be, I don't have to solve it. Mm-hmm. It's not a problem yet. And I think sometimes, like, for my brain, that's always what I felt. Like, I felt a lot of fear about stuff. I think just because my dad was taken so young, and being an only child. And
how old were you when your dad died?
I was 22, but my father had such an interesting background that I always felt aware of abandonment. He was left on a doorstep, never knew his parents. And so there was always a sense of like, ooh, he was left, like someone didn't want their child. Like, that was kind of freaked me out. It was, I found that so upsetting. But he managed to have this amazing life. He won a Pulitzer. He was great. And yet I know that like the generational wound was abandonment, fear of abandonment. And then at a very young age, he was just literally taken very quickly, kind of like Chris, your brother. Mm-hmm. There was no lead up. And so I've always had that sort of unhealed fear. And so I'm really trying to work on the fact that, I'm going to know what's mine to do. And I know that if I move in the world with love and compassion, that's really what I can do. That's a positive step I can take. So I think for me, that's how it's helped me in my life, A Course in Miracles, right? I mean,
yeah. I want to add to that another thing that gets really highlighted when you're doing the course is that if you're feeling off, bad, guilty, shame, you have not sided with love. So your body is the barometer for telling you, oh, I feel sad today. I feel off. I must there's something. What am I thinking? I'm thinking there's not enough money. I'm thinking I'm not healthy. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking my child isn't safe. And because it's not happening. And so your mind now is engaged and thinking about the worst case scenario. So to Alison's point, it's to come back and choose, you know what? My child is great. My child is safe. I might not know where my child is right now, but I know that love is right where my child is and my child is safe. Mm-hmm. Like it.
So it's like trust. It's really leaning into trusting.
Yeah. And trusting that love is present. Mm.
And then I think the biggest effect that A Course in Miracles had on me was the idea it's either love or a call for love. Mm-hmm. Like that's so that you can look at someone. My eldest child was bullied in 7th and 8th grade, and it was really hard on them, really, really hard. And when I was reading A Course in Miracles, I said, I'm going to say this and maybe this will help. It's either love or a call for love. And the person that was bullying, we talked it through and realized my kid didn't have to be a victim, that person had a call for love. Now, that doesn't mean that this book condones all behavior, that if something is happening that is unsafe, hurtful, abusive, it doesn't condone that. It's not to turn a blind eye, but it's sort of to empower yourself and realize, oh, okay, that's what's happening for that person. And now I have a choice of what I'm going to do with it, that it really kind of removes the victimhood in a way. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because it doesn't seem so different probably from what Helen, who I thought was Barbara, learned and taught and, worked in psychology to help people to do, right? It's like, how not to step into those roles of being the victim,
right?
And then we go down the whole rabbit hole of you don't want to victim blame and shame and all of that. But it sounds like this is really about where can you take responsibility for the choices that you're making in your life, and recognizing that every single thing is a choice on some level of how you're responding to what's happening to you.
Yes.
Right. Well said.
Very good.
There you go.
And that's in the Course in Miracles.
Thank you, Amy.
So, Jean, how did you, obviously you went through a very, very public recently loss. Your husband, Alex Trebek, who everybody knew and loved dearly, was the host for, what was it, like 38 years of Jeopardy.
Long time. Yeah.
Yeah. How did this framework for you help you through that time? Because he wasn't sick for 20 months. Was it 20 months or?
I think it was like 20 months. Yeah. About a year and a half. I did the Course in Miracles as not every day. When I say I do it, I just read the little lesson. And it just kind of kept me on track. And there were times that both Alex and I felt so overwhelmed with what to do. Should he try this trial drug? Should he go to Israel and meet this doctor? Should he go to Florida and meet this doctor? Should he try this tea? Should he smoke this weed? Should he drink those mushrooms? I mean, he had everything.
Right. And when you have like everything available to you, right? How do you even know?
Imagine how many people reached out and said, my brother-in-law had pancreatic cancer. And it was, in a way, it was so beautiful. So many people wanted to help Alex and have the magic bullet that would, heal his condition. But if you're talking about the Course in Miracles or I would say any spiritual, if it's anything that just brings you back to love and that you are first a spiritual person moving through your soul, your consciousness. And then, this realm happens, this earthly experience happens, and it can be super hard. And here's the thing, I have a friend that says, you know what? Planet Earth, you get born, you have 100% mortality rate. Like, you come here,
right.
It's not like, well, you've got a 50-50. You are, none of us make it out here. There's a clock. We don't know that clock for any of us. And I think, when wow, like I knew, especially that last 6 months, wow, he is really slowly, his fight is diminishing. He's really letting, he's like, no more tests, no more of this. you become so aware and full of gratitude for every moment. I remember him and I having soup one night together, and he says to me, "Jeannie, this is the best chicken soup." And it was a little cup, and we sat in the bedroom and had this, and I thought, yeah, this soup came out pretty good.
Yeah.
But you just become so focused on life as it is right now. And any script, if you're someone that likes the Bible, or you love gardening, or you have a dear friend, anything that just helps you feel loved
And connected
is really a beautiful buoy to help you get through something. So, I did have the Course in Miracles, but again, I say, if that's not your thing, there are so many paths to love. So that just happens to be something that really worked for me.
And I think too, well, let me ask this question. Do you feel like it helped you through your grief? Not that you're done grieving, but helped you as you've been grieving?
Yes. I would definitely say it has. And again, just a reminder that, life is continuous even when we no longer have our bodies. And I know, Alex, it was something really, it was very blatantly obvious to me when he took his last breath. I knew, I was like, oh, he's still in the bed. Like, I could feel his energy. And the body is just like that heavy, like a heavy garment.
Mm-hmm.
And do I feel Alex all the time? No. Have there been signs? Yes. And when I call on him to help me with something, somehow, some way, he, I just know that I have this huge guardian angel that can help, smooth the path, and I don't feel alone. So I know he's, that light, that love of Alex is still expanding, and it's engaged in whatever he is. I don't know. It's not like I've had a near death experience, but I do not feel like this physical life is the end. I think there's been way too much scientific proof that life moves on. This is not the end.
I agree.
What was it like for you to be in your grief when the world was grieving as well? Like, he was so beloved.
Yeah. It was distracting a little bit, having so much, and in a way that was good, because I had a lot of things on my plate. But, it was like, oh my God, people adored this man. And
and sometimes he really got on my nerves.
Drove me nuts.
Right.
Like, I'd be like, like he was just like,
he was just her husband.
Just my husband.
Right.
It's you talking about Dan. You love them beyond anything, and yet sometimes, can you go take a long walk, or yeah, we totally had moments like that. But wow, it was just like there was so many feelings, Amy. One part was like, wow, I really did share Alex with so many people. And I don't know, like, there's a part of me that likes to keep things kind of private. And yet I did feel like he belonged to everybody. And so just acknowledging the love that people had for him, and having to just process my own feelings as just my husband, father of my children.
Did you think that what you were sharing of Alex was his persona, or did you think it was truthfully him? Like, how did you make
I think
sense
it was
of that?
both. That's a great question.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Do you also do interviews of people?
Yeah. I'm just always interested in her, so, or people in general. So.
And we can't wait to interview
I
you.
know, I'm so excited for it.
But you think it was like both?
I do think it was both. I mean, except the sexual intimacy,
No, right.
that clearly was just Alex and me.
Right.
But and I actually think, thank goodness that as a married, I understand like that sexual intimacy. Alison and I were talking just how that is special and unique to a relationship. But then that faded, in our relationship when he got sick and everything. And then, you just come into this universal feeling like, wow, we're here one-on-one, and then it kind of explodes into like a universal love. And
can I just share something that I witnessed of you? I think that
I love you guys together. Can we be friends beyond this? Like, I want to get in this little twosome here.
Come on
It
over.
looks like there's space for me.
Yeah, right here. You could be right here. I think that witnessing and just being a part of your household sometimes, there was a definite intimacy that you two had just passing in the kitchen. And I don't know was shared in some level with like when you were like in a public way, like, or maybe like on the cruise ships or something. There was a real, sometimes, do you know what I mean?
I do.
And I don't mean to like, I'm just mean.
No, it sounds like there was like an energy between them that existed.
Just husband and wife, and like she in the kitchen, and he come up and say, "Jeannie, and give her like a little squeeze or something," and you realized, they're just married people, then, and like just like me and my anyone, and you realize, like there are intimate parts of a relationship, no matter how close you are with whoever.
Yeah,
that is sort of private too. Do you know what I
agree.
mean?
And it's separate from a sexual act.
Yeah.
It is very
intimate. The intimacy is not necessarily sex.
And it's just knowing of another human person.
Yes. Great way of putting it.
Because certainly the people saw the man that hosted the show Jeopardy, and they fell in love with that personality. And
they couldn't seem to really fall in love with anybody else in the same way.
Yeah, that's so true.
And then, as a husband and wife, you get both sides. You get the glamour side, plus you get the human side, which isn't always so glamorous.
Right.
And it's just what it is. So
are there any, thank you so much for being so willing and open to share that too. I appreciate it.
Alice.
I just,
I know you're such like, I think sometimes even me as a therapist, I'm always like treading a little bit carefully because like I could go down a rabbit hole pretty far with people. Like, I have friends that'll say to me, wait, how did you get in such a deep conversation with so-and-so at the party? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just like how I don't know how to roll deeper than that. But I also want to be really respectful because I know sometimes if you're in the public eye, there are things that get shared in certain ways that you just like aren't necessarily useful or helpful or feel, intrusive. So I really appreciate how you shared that. I think it shows the depth of your love for one another. And I'm curious from both of you, if there's any specific signs that you've experienced from your brother, from your dad, from Alex over time? I mean, you've alluded to them, but any that really stand out for you that you were like, holy cow, I cannot believe this.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I think I'm constantly in conversation with people that have passed, and I see how they, we talked to on our podcast, Lorna Byrne, and she talks to guardian angels.
Oh yeah, that was another. I have not had historically. I'd never cancel podcasts, but that was another one that I had to push because
she's
stuff
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Wait till you talk with her, and she's like, you need to ask, open and ask. And I have to say that is so right. It's just like anything, you have to ask. And I mean, there have been so many times that I mean, things have happened, synchronicities. I believe my father helped me at a time in New York when I was attacked. That one time, I believe that was him, and it was very, very powerful. Like I just feel like it's the truth. So yes, do you, right?
Oh yeah, I don't get like.
I haven't seen them walking
it's not
around
like
the house.
It's not
right. No apparitions. Me either. I don't get that either. Unfortunately.
Right.
Although probably fortunately for my kids, because I don't know how good they'd feel about that one.
Right.
It's already bad enough that when the lights blink, I'm like, "Hi, Grandma," and they're like, "All right, she's
gone for now."
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think maybe not so much from my brother, although I've been told my brother when I've had like energy readings or things like that, like, oh, your brother is close. I think Alex helped me find this new home that I'm living in. I think Alex is just really helping to, I feel like it's like, since it's energy, everything is like an energetic. I feel like his energy tries to kind of persuade or kind of clear. And he's certainly helped me with just all the financial.
Yeah.
It was like an octopus, like estates and trusts and all of that. So that he's helped me and will continue, because it's like Greek language to me.
Not anymore.
Not as much, but it's still
right.
like
It's like trial by fire, right? You don't have a choice to learn.
I'd rather bake a cake than go look at
meet with a lawyer.
Exactly. I love the lawyer that I have, but it's like, okay, it's like your dentist.
Right. It's good for you, and your teeth will feel real clean when you leave, but no one is like, sign me up.
That's right.
Although the new TVs they have put in many dental offices does help a little bit. So
very good. Yeah. I just feel when I do ask Alex for help, something kind of opens up. And honestly, to Alison's point, I ask, maybe not every day, but I'm going to say 4 days out of the week, I will either say, bless this day, please help me communicate well in this regard. Please help me to find a great gift for Alison. Whatever it is, just, Amy, have you ever been in those escape rooms?
No, but I know I should.
So when you go in an escape room, you are allowed help.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
You're allowed help. And it's only like every 10 minutes, you're allowed to say, help, I need a clue. And I am constantly trying to do that. Like, we need help. We need a clue. And if I'm with my daughter, she's like, Mom, try to figure it out on your own. I'm like, nope.
Why should I? If I can get help.
Exactly. Right. I'm totally. So I do ask my angels. I ask Alex to just help me understand something, help another person. And But seeing a red truck, because Alex drove a huge, like a beautiful maroon Ram 1500 pickup truck. So
not something common in LA, I would imagine.
Not the color and stuff like that. And I know he's helping. I've asked him like, Emily would love a boyfriend. That's our beautiful daughter, and she's with this really wonderful man right now. So I don't know where it'll go, but we are really.
He's great.
He's wonderful, and I love both of them, so that's nice. But I do think on the other side, they're willing to help. You just got to ask.
Yeah. And my friend who's an atheist said, how do you know, like, and I said, all right, no one knows, right? No one knows. True, not true, real, everything.
Right.
But it makes me feel better and good. So, like, why not?
How do we know this is real?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
Right? It's like, what is the nature of reality?
Right.
Yeah.
How do we know any of it is true or real or right or?
I totally agree with you. Yeah. There's just so many, we've talked about this, so many scientists that think, this is just another algorithm in a way that we're viewing, and what is really reality and what is consciousness, and scientists don't know what consciousness is. And yet, I don't know, the idea of a creative consciousness is the idea of God to me. And and that is, I really believe there is a benevolent, creative, loving force that
we can use,
that we are,
and that we can. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think if more people could find that wherever they can find it, the world would be a very different place than it is.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think there's so much fear right now.
Yeah. Imagine if we all really just try to think more loving thoughts than fear and resentment, and it's very powerful. And I know on the days that when I'm in that rhythm, I do feel just the flow of my life seems lighter.
Totally. It feels like you're not swimming against the current.
Yes, exactly.
So last question, even though I could pour a glass of wine and hang out for a little bit longer, but I'm supposed to do that with girlfriends. Right. There's the perfect spot for me. Tell us about your amazing podcast and how that came to be, this insight. Did you hear me? Is that the voice of God? Do you hear that?
No, what happened?
I hear like a double voice.
Oh, that's cool.
It's probably just the mic, but we're going to go with the voice of God.
Exactly.
It's much more interesting and fun. Tell us what, how the Inside Wink podcast got started and what it means to both of you.
Okay, well, I was working on a film documentary with my friend Ike, and it fell apart. Our schedules just couldn't get it together, but we did get some beautiful footage on forgiveness, and we collected interviews from actors, from spiritual leaders, from all walks of life. What does forgiveness mean to you? So these were in the can, and I said to Alison, they're so beautiful. I wish there was some way that we could finish this documentary. And Alison said, yeah, I think you said, why don't we have a podcast and have, a website, and kind of introduce little snippets of these words of wisdom, these interviews of wisdom on forgiveness. And also Alison came up with the title Inside Wing.
And so we did this. We did the website for a long time, like 4 years. And it was like a boat that carried us through many events of our lives. You know, it started in 2018 and it went through till 2022, I think. And it was, you know, it was really interesting the way it kept, like during COVID, during Alex, my child came out as non-binary during that, like a lot of things that it kept us sort of connected and also really remembering. So it really was like a little life raft that it was very profound to have it during that time. And then that ran its course. And we decided we loved the part we loved was talking to people and being curious about people and sharing good things. And so we started doing the podcast, and it has been like amazing. Like even now, like we're talking to you, meeting you, we'll hang up with you and be like, wow, that was so great. We feel so elated.
I know. I feel this similarly. Like every time, there's times where you know, it's like, oh, God, it's such a, I mean, it's an expense, it's time, it's energy.
Scheduling.
Right. All that. I put a lot of time and thought into my guests and their questions I want to ask them. And I'm like, oh, is it worth it? Is anyone even listening out there? And then I have the experience of being in connection and communication with just literally every person I talk to is amazing. Right. And I love sharing their stories and hearing their stories and bringing that to the world. And then I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And I think, you know, the listening part, like who's listening, who's not listening. And then the other day I was thinking, even by talking like this, I believe that we're elevating a frequency somehow of connection and goodness, just meeting you right now, you know? And so I don't know, like, I think that's really important. And it really makes me, I always feel better. Like, not that I felt bad, but I always feel like, wow, like after these meetings.
Me too. I feel totally like alive.
Yeah. Me too.
And it's always a reminder every time I get on. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love doing this.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love people.
People are great. People are love, you know, and it's like when you connect and you share, and it is like we are different, and how great. Like I make chicken this way, you make chicken that way. Alison,
I don't make chicken.
Alice, you know, turkey. So it's fun, you know. We don't have to be the same, and thank God we're not. And then it's like I am always amazed by all the humans we meet, and they all have a different thing they want to share and a different passion that they have and a different gift or a different idea. And it gives me such a charge.
Yeah.
You know?
It's always so, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jean.
No, I was just going to say, and that to me is the inside wink. It's the love, the creative expression within someone and how it comes out in the world.
Yeah, it's so true. You never know. You just don't know people's stories. And I'm just thinking, just yesterday we were sitting in synagogue for Rosh Hashanah, and the gentleman that was sitting on the end of our aisle.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Thank you. Got up and went onto the bima for an aliyah, which is the honoring, and he became an adult bar mitzvah. And so when he sat back down, my parents said to him, you know, Mazel Tov, what made you kind of pursue that path? And he said, well, it was something that I had always wanted to do. And I had signed up for it during COVID, and then I couldn't do it. And then my wife got sick. And it became very important to me that this was something that I complete while she was sick. She did end up passing away. They have two young boys who have not yet been bar mitzvahed. or become a bar mitzvah, become bar mitzvah. And my mom looked at me, I looked at my mom, we both started crying, because in that moment, it was like, I think what you're talking about is like the humanity, the consciousness, the connection of us all, that like human part of us that recognizes, his love for his son. I mean, he didn't say any of this. I could just be projecting, but his love for his sons, his love for his wife, his love for his spirituality and religion that got him really through. Even like there was a synchronicity because his name had been changed and our name had been changed, and it had been changed from the same name.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So it was just like the whole thing was just like this fascinating connection that happened really quick. I mean, this was in between, prayers and everything, where they were like sort of whispering to each other and trying to get the story. And it was just one of those moments like you're talking about of genuine human connection that is so powerful.
And even though I don't go to temple, I'm not Jewish, I feel like crying.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is something so honest and truthful about a man with a spiritual desire, and then, the loss of his wife. And it's just, that is the thing that I think we overlook.
Mm-hmm.
That, and the society right now is in this time, but that is such a beautiful story. Like, I feel like calling that guy and say, good
I
on
know. I know. It really was. It was. And then we told my sister and my sister-in-law when we got back to our house, and they shared that they had been at the family service earlier and he had been up on the bima holding the Torah. I mean, it was just like a beautiful, and they said that they were sort of wondering like what his story was. Yeah. Because he was up there, just the three of them. And so it was just a reminder of the importance of knowing that everybody has a story.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sending him huge blessings.
Yeah. How wonderful. Yeah.
That's
so
amazing.
Ladies, this was phenomenal. Thank you for your time. I just loved it.
Yeah.
People, we're going to do some sharing, some cross promotion of each other's podcasts as well, because they're of the similar vein. But if people want to find you, where can they find you? How can they get to know your work more?
We have a website,
www.insidewink.com.
Right, that's the website.
And our podcast.
Yeah, it's on Apple and Spotify. It's just Inside Wink. Like you're winking at the good within.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah.
Love it.
And we can't wait to interview you,
that's going to be really fun, Amy.
I know. I'm so excited. That's in 2 weeks, I think. 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that I will hold steadfast on.
That's okay. Life happens.
Yeah.
It's
not like, if something comes up, just let us know.
I will. I appreciate you both. Thank you so much for your time today.
So nice to see you and meet you.
You too.
Bye.
Like what you heard today and want to hear more? Wondering what comes next and what it all means? Head over to Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere you get your podcasts and hit subscribe. Also, if you could take a minute to rate and review my podcast, I would really appreciate it. Stay tuned as we continue to explore life, death, and the space between.